Well, good morning and welcome to my YouTube channel. So this morning I've come up to Glencoe and this is Rannoch Moor, and this morning I thought I'd try and come up for the sunrise and try and work my way around this loch, because it's not a loch I've actually taken a lot of photos around before. So I thought I'd just work my way around the loch because there's lots of little islands in the loch, and with being backlit by the sun, hopefully we get some nice images and some nice compositions, because there's plenty to take photographs of. So we're at Loch h-achlaise. Join me this morning and let's see where this journey takes us. Alright, so the mountain range that we're looking onto this morning is the Black Mountain Range, and that spans all the way from Bridge of Orchy all the way over to the kind of Glencoe Ski Centre, King's House area. Beautiful set of mountains, and hopefully we can make them a wee bit more resplendent this morning. So what my first composition is, I've got all these rocks in front of me. I've got the snow-capped mountains and the horizon. I've got quite a lot of layers between me and the mountains, and I've been trying to look for some form of separation in the water so that we've got the various layers exposed within the photograph. So my first composition is going to be, there's a big rock up on the top right hand side here, there's a small island in the middle with a single tree sticking out, and then I've got the Black Monroe Mountains in the background. So I'm going to focus into the centre of the image and I'll take that shot. Now I've put my polarizer on because I want to minimise the glare in the water, but I want to maximise as much of the quality of the reflections as I possibly can as well. And I think as we move around the loch, as the sun comes up and the loch starts to get a little bit of movement in it, we'll probably switch to the long exposure lenses and maybe put the big stopper on and get a few long exposures so we can smoothen out the water and just see what that effect has, because there's not a lot of wind yet. It's freezing cold, but there's not a lot of wind, so there's going to be little movement in the trees when we come to photograph them. Right, so I've taken this shot. What I'll do is I'm going to zoom in now, and I've still got that rock in the foreground. I've still got the island. I'm just double checking my focus there. What I might do is increase my ISO. So I've got a 25th of a second f/16 ISO 160, and that's come up really nice. Now what I'll do is I'm going to move a little bit further forward to the edge of this grass area, and we'll see if we can get a different perspective, because there are other islands and different locations that might be a nice shot for this side, and as we work our way around the loch we'll get different views and different angles. Right, so I'm just moving to the edge here because I'm also testing the strength of the ground underneath the water. So I'm just quickly going to set up my composition. Well, that's really nice actually. So I've now got a closer view of the mountain and the island and the rock. Because I'm shooting at f/16, that rock's going to be in focus. I'm just double checking. Yep, I'm just going to reduce my ISO just to give me a little bit more contrast in the image in depth. So I've now got a 25th of a second f/16 ISO 125. I'll take that shot, and that's a really nice shot. Right, I'm just going to turn round and see if I can get a different composition. Right, so I'm going to go for a wide angle shot now, and I'm going to use the rocks in front of me as foreground interest. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rocks. The sun, I'll just adjust my polarizer to see. What I don't want to do is put the polarizer in the rocks, right? So the other thing, and this is things that you always say, is as soon as you're in front of the sun, then your shadows get cast. So unfortunately my shadow is being cast on this rock immediately in front of me. But I'm going to take this shot anyway because I know I can fix that in post-processing. But what I will do, I'll take a single shot just now. I'll move around the edge of the loch and we'll look for other viewpoints and we'll see what other images we can capture. Alright, so I've walked round to another location. That rock we were taking photographs of, I found a piece of grass that I can stand where I'm really close. What I've also done is I've kept to this side of the rock so that I'm not casting my shadow onto the rock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compose the rock and those two smaller rocks in my image as my foreground interest. I've got separation in the water from the rock to the island, and then I've got that small tree in the island, and then I've got the mountains in the background. So my first image I'm going to focus in on the rock, and then the second image what I'll do is I'll focus in on the island just to double check. There we go. Take that shot. I've adjusted the polarizer so the polarizer's fine. Right, so what I might do is I'll see if there's a low composition over here on my left, because there's some reeds sticking out the water and it might make quite a nice composition. Right, I've come out into the water because as I've been walking round, I saw this little island and I want that tree as my focal point on the island. But depending on where I stood, the tree either had a mountain on this side or a mountain on that side in the background, and there was no real separation. So as I've walked round, there's a gap between in the mountain range, but I've got down a little bit lower so that the head of the tree is sticking up over the mountains but has the sky behind it. So, and it's probably the most separation I'm going to get, to be honest. So what I'm doing is I've lowered my ISO to 100. I'm still at f/16 and I've got a 25th of a second. And that's a nice image. Right, I'm just watching my feet because these rocks are quite slippy. So I'm going to zoom in and I'll just take a shot of the tree, because it's really the tree that I want in focus, but I do want the mountains in the background. Right, so now I'm going to do a wide angle shot and I'll tip my camera down. So for this shot, what I want is, this will be a really nice 16 by 9, or what we would call a letterbox image, so long and narrow. And because it's a wide angle shot, so what I've done is I've centered these rocks on the horizon line. So they're just below the horizon line. The horizon line is in the middle of my image, and I've got the mountain range at the top and I've got these rocks at the bottom. So my polarizer's adjusted to take the glare off the water immediately in front of me. That's a really nice shot. That would also be nice as a long exposure and smooth out the water. In fact, so the wind, I can feel the wind picking up a little bit behind me. But if I turn the camera off and I go and get the big stopper and my remote control, why don't we try a long exposure and see how that starts to look. Right, so I need to adjust the polarizer here. Trickling down. Right, so for the long exposure I'll need to plug in my remote, and I will also have to change my camera mode from bulb mode, from manual mode to bulb mode. And then the reason I move to bulb mode is because that allows me to control the length of time that the shutter stays closed. So let me just get this plugged in. It's a wee bit fiddly. There we go. Right, so what I think the best advice you get when you're using these big stopper filters, because it's effectively like welding glass and you can't really see through it. So what you do is you set up your composition first. You focus in to your focal points. So I'm just going to double check I'm focused into the centre, and then switch the camera to bulb mode, push down the filter. Right, so now what I'll do is, let me see, I'm going to try a 30-second exposure first because it's a really bright day. I'm trying to smoothen out the water. And let's see, from a 30-second exposure, do I need to increase the length of time or do I decrease the length of time? And I'll use that as a gauge. Because I'm shooting, I've increased my f-stop to f16. And we're at 28. So this is 30. Oh, that's really nice. So, that's nice. But what we'll do is we'll give it a minute. So I'm leaning in front of the camera because the sun's right behind me and it's going into the viewer. So what I don't want is any light leakage through the viewer into the image. So I'm putting my hand over. It's only because the sun is so strong behind me. Now that's 30 seconds. There's 45 seconds. Oh wow. Right, so I think 45 seconds is about right. So what I'll do now is I'm going to go back and take a shot of the island with the mountains in the background, because I really like this long exposure effect. I'm just double checking my focus, and I don't need to take my long exposure filter out because it's really bright. So if I set the timer for 45 seconds, and then to save you the wait, I'll share that image with you. Right, that's us. We'll take these out. So I don't know. Alright, so I'm going to attempt to walk on that island and see if there's any kind of interesting trees or different viewpoints. So if I can stand on the top one of the points in the island, I might get a different view across the loch. So let's see how we get on.